Hi folks, welcome to this video which presents another way that you can calculate the unamortized discount to be removed from the account at retirement. So far we've looked at the T account method. Sometimes students are saying, these T accounts are too confusing. Is there an easier way? Well, it's all predicated on the same math, but if it's visually better for you, let's look at another way to find the unamortized discount. First of all, you remember in this question that we issued the bond on June the 1st. And if you go back to that part of the question, you'll see that when we made the entry, we set up an unamortized discount of $1,693,027. That's for all of the bonds. Subsequent to that, when we made a journal entry on October the 31st to pay out interest, at the time we paid out the interest and we recorded discount that we amortized on all of those bonds, because don't forget, we also had to book interest expense because there was interest expense from June the 1st to October 31st, right? And that's 5 months, June, July, August, September, October. Because it's a semi-annual bond, we're going to take the entire interest expense, which we booked here for a full 6 months, right here. But we only want it from June the 1st to October 31st. We only want 6 months or 5 months of the 6. So what we would have done, all right, at this date is amortize of that original amount of discount, which was $1,693,027. We've amortized $26,721. So now what I'm saying down here is that you have left to amortize the rest, which is $1,666,306. That's what's left to amortize, okay, before we retire the bonds. So if this is what we amortized of the original, this is what's left. Now don't forget, we retire the bonds after October the 31st, right? We retire 10% of the bonds when? We decided to retire on December 31st. So what we need to do is from the last date we recorded interest, which was October 31st, the first thing we need to do, the first step in the retirement, is to update all of the interest accounts, including the discount, for the 10% of the bonds we're retiring. So what that means is that I have to book interest expense for when? November and December, because I retired October 31st, or I set up interest on October 31st, because that's when I paid it out. So I have November and December, which is 2 months of interest expense. We said before that's 6 months, okay, in the 6-month period, right? 2 months, okay, is November and December, but I only want it for 10% of the bonds. I have no reason to do an update for discount and interest on bonds for the ones not being retired, because nothing's happening to them on December 31st, right? I'm only updating for the 10% I'm retiring, all right? And I have to accrue interest because once the bonds are retired, now I'm going to pay out the interest. So I accrued 2 months interest, okay? That's interest on all the bonds. I only want it for 10%. So this math will give me $50,000. The difference is the amount of discount I'm amortizing on 10% of the bonds, right? So why is that important? Because if I had this much, $1,666,306 unamortized on all of the bonds before we retired, that means applying only 10% of it, I have left to amortize $166,631 at the retirement date. But we just showed you where we amortized in step 1 to update our interest accounts $1,112. So that's what we already amortized right here. So that was the first step to update the interest related accounts at the date we're retiring the bond, which is December 31st. So now what's left? When I retire the bond then, I have to now amortize $165,519, and that's the same number you got with the T accounts. How did we get it? Well, again, we said that of the original unamortized discount, we have to amortize 10% of it for the bonds we're retiring, or $166,631. But when we did the first step, which updated our interest accounts, which is our expense and our payable, we already amortized $1,112 of that $166,631. So therefore, when we retire the bond, we have to amortize the balance. And this matches up exactly with what we did with the T accounts. So if you prefer this method, that's great. You won't get a different answer, but it's just using a little bit of math as opposed to T accounts. So this concludes our alternate way of getting the unamortized discount, which needs to be fully amortized at the retirement date of the bonds. I hope you found the video helpful.